It seems like you're saying she's doing what she needs to do to try and win. I
Well,
wonder though, in the last 12 days leading up to the election, what's the one or two things she needs to do to win? But equally, what's the one or two things that Trump needs to do to get over the line and win?
well, I mean, I think they all do what they think they need to do to win, right? I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean they are doing what they need to do to win.
Yeah,
And at
yeah,
this stage, the die is cast. Like I think she should have run a different campaign, starting at the DNC. She had it. She had captured lightning in a bottle,
yeah, yeah,
and the whole Republicans are weird thing, they made a conscious decision to stop that, even though it
yeah.
was like wildly successful.
And
And the
and like and,
theory,
Cheney the Cheneys like singing the praises of the Cheneys being like on
100%,
their side now. It's
it's
like
grotesque.
you could say this is how bad the Republicans are. These people who we don't like and we never have, and we're even them, the ones we're not liking, are not going to vote for that guy. We don't want them to be involved, but look how bad they are, and they're too, and Trump's too bad for them. Now let's move on by ourselves without them as
Their
on stage with us.
their theory is let's get the most horrible of
Yeah,
Republican villains and have them come out and say I'm not voting for Trump, and that giving a certain percentage of Republicans license
yeah,
to
permission.
vote for Harris. If
Yeah,
if if Dick Cheney's going to vote for Harris, I mean, I understand their theory. It may work, and I hope it does, because I think it would be an absolute disaster for this country if Donald Trump becomes president, not just because of Donald Trump, but because of the Republican Party. So, in answering like what they need to do from now until the election, it's really more a function of like what they've set up the table, right? I mean, it's not like Harris can go run in the way that I want her to.
yeah,
I do think, however, if she came out and said, my policy on Israel and Gaza is if she had, even if like we will follow the law, and we will do another review on day one. We will do a review that will last 7 days of Israel's the way that they're waging this, and we will follow the law. I mean, I think almost that would be something that would
mm,
indicate like, but I don't think she's going to do that. And because I just don't think that that's what their strategy is. Um, I think the big thing that they need to do is it's motivating. It's all a ground game now. I mean, this is the one thing that really gives me hope. Like, I don't know if she's pursuing the right strategy. I mean, listen, I had people on my show who told me 3 days before the election in 2016 that Hillary Clinton has a 97%
yeah,
chance of winning. And like,
yeah,
so and I was like, okay. And, but the get out the vote operations are what I look at now.
yeah,
And, even then it's also very difficult to assess. There are more Republicans who have come out to vote early in Pennsylvania than in 2020, but that was because it was an explicit strategy by the Trump campaign to not have them come out. But Democrat early voting numbers, even though that they were going to shift to more election day work, seems to be holding up to 2020 numbers. And so that's a good sign. There are, like I can, like I say, depending on which, is it the top of the hour or is it the bottom of the hour? That, and I can tell you that my optimism swings back and forth.
mm,
Um, it's just, I'm looking at the early breakdowns of early voting in like Michigan and Pennsylvania, and they appear to be good, but I just don't know. We've been living in an era that has been every time, almost every election we've had has been unpredictable in some way or another. So, like for instance, 2018 off year election, we had the highest. Both the Republicans and the Democrats had off the charts numbers for voter participation in an off-year election. It just so happens that the Democrats had a more off the charts, a record-breaking, I'm talking decades and decades.
But that's also thanks to Trump, isn't it? That's an activation because of Trump that they wanted to push back.
It's all. I think a lot of it is negative partisanship.
Right.
But then we have abortion as an issue, and I just, this is the first time in, really arguably ever in the history of the United States that an individual right that was found to be, a constitutional right was taken away after 50 years.
Yeah.
We had instances like post-Reconstruction of the Civil War where Supreme Courts curbed Black people from voting, even though ostensibly they had gotten the vote in the series of the Reconstruction amendment to our Constitution, but nothing this explicit. So it's really difficult, and it's also difficult to assess because you look at national polling. I think Trump is doing better with constituencies that aren't necessarily going to help him. So he may be doing better with conservatives in New York State, for instance.
Yeah.
Or in California than he had done last time. But those two states are not going to go in his column. But it makes his national numbers look better. And, it doesn't explain the state polls. But, right now with the way that Republicans have figured out, a lot of these places do averaging of polls. So if we just put out a bunch of bullshit polls, we're going to impact that. So I'm also less inclined to believe than I used to that people decide how they're going to vote based upon these polls. I think Hillary Clinton suffered, among the many, many reasons she lost. And I would say, honestly, I could probably off the top of my head still, even now, 8 years later, name, half a dozen really concrete reasons why she lost. But I think one of them was she's going to win. Yeah. So, it's not as dire of a circumstance. I can maybe vote for somebody else, or I can maybe blow it off.
Yeah. And also activating the other side. What do you think she's going to win? We better get out and vote as well.
Oh, I think the hatred towards Hillary Clinton was also sort of sui generis in this country. They had 30 years of people literally making a living off of, saying that she had murdered one of her aides and dragged their body to a park in Washington, D.C. This is what Rush Limbaugh was saying for 20 years. And there's a lot of reasons to be critical of Hillary Clinton. I don't think she killed that person. So
I like it how you say you don't think. You can't absolutely confirm or deny.
Listen, I am not I wasn't involved. I wasn't that closely involved. So I'll give myself a little wiggle room.